Alright everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Music Producer Revolution, your favorite daily song feedback show brought to you by Neo Sonus. Now that I've got this little intro out of the way, I just wanted to give an update before we got into things. As you can tell, I'm using old Reddit. In fact, let me actually buff that up there. I'm using old Reddit, and part of it is symbolic. The way that I go about doing this show, the Music Producer Revolution, has changed. Things have been changing lately. I've had a lot of things in the background working, and as a result of those things happening, I've changed my strategy. So, moving forward after today's episode, there won't be a lot of interaction with r/EDM production other than just doing the song feedback here. Originally, when I crafted the idea for the Music Producer Revolution, I also wanted to answer a few questions as well too, but I'm just going to be doing the song feedback here. And if anyone has any questions that they need to be answered, I'm going to prioritize questions from the Weekly WAV community. And again, if this is your first time hearing about the Weekly WAV or joining us here on the Music Producer Revolution, the Weekly WAV is my community where I have, a bunch of different producers there that all have the same goal of finishing more music. And the challenge is to finish a song in a week. But that's neither here nor there. That's something that's a little bit later, and I'll talk about that at the end. What you're all here for is your song feedback. So we're going to pull up the daily feedback thread for May 28th, 2025, and we are going to look for the first one. And that's going to be by Yoru V3. And what you say here is that you've made it to the ending of this song, but you feel like something's missing. You want it to feel very intense, like something big is coming in the end before it calms down. So let's see how you've done with those guidelines, and let's give your track a listen. Give it 1 second. All right, just 1 second here. I had to deactivate a fan, otherwise all you would hear in the background is a rusty scythe being prepared for something. Want to say I really like this song. Really enjoyed the intro of the track too. I really enjoy, the gabber style of music as well too, and the amount of energy that it takes to not just keep that track moving and pumping, but to also tell the story of the song. It's a very difficult genre for me to create, but I always enjoy listening to it. So big ups to you for that. Your arrangement is solid. Your sections and your transitions between your sections are very well defined. There's no confusion about whether or not you're still in one section or another. And the only critique that I could give you for next time with your elements, because everything fit, your sound selection was good and your sound design was well as well, but you could have slightly panned some of your elements just to create a little bit more room in between them. I know that with Gabber you have a lot of things coming in into the mix at once, and if you don't need to create a really wide song, but if you just spaced out slightly, even with just panning or mid-side EQ, then you'll find that your mix will be a little bit more cleaner. And that's not to knock the mix that you currently have. The mix that you currently have, I really enjoyed it. There was really one thing that stood out to me, and it happened a few times, but specifically at like the 2 minute 38-second mark, you had that piano come in, and it was just a little too strong. Like, I would probably lowering the volume by maybe 1 dB, maybe 1.5 dB, just because it's very jarring when it comes in towards the end. Now, your big question was that you feel like something's missing as you move into like this big crescendo of your outro. I understand what you mean by that, and I think it's very simple. I think one thing that you can do, it's really two things, but add a riser. As you're finishing out and getting ready to move into your outro, add a rise, like a really long siren riser that just builds up and creates tension. Where you're missing is something that builds tension. So I would use a really, it could be a really simple riser that just has a siren, and then what I would also do is couple that with either an impact or a kick that is reversed. And the reason why you're going to reverse it is if you reverse your impact or kick and you make the sample long enough, it becomes almost like a whooshing sub-frequency. You get the rumble and it builds up, like the rumble is coming from the low end, so it creates this sensation of something really big is getting ready to come, like there's another boom getting ready to come. And when you pair that with the siren riser that you have, you're going to have this ascending tone from your riser, as well as this big, almost like swelling feeling coming up. And if you just use those two things, I think you'll get that sound that you're achieving, or the sound that you want to achieve. And with all that being said, though, that's all I got for you. I really enjoyed what you made right there. So thank you, Yoru. Alright. So now we have Anomaly Music Official. You're wrapping up this mid-tempo remix. Still a lot of mixing to be done, but any pointers will be appreciated. Sound design, writing sound good, drops hitting. You'll get back to anyone later today. So let's hope that there's no ads as we transition to this mid-tempo track. Alright, let's get into it. So really enjoyed the vibe of this track. The arrangement itself is really solid. You know, the writing for that aspect is good. Your choice of sounds that you use here were really good in terms of how they fit the aesthetic of the song. There's one groan stab bass sound that happens a few times in the first half of the song. I have it written down. It's like 1 minute 17. Let's see if I can nail that part exactly. Yeah, that last, it's like an airy, it almost sounds like a resonance sweep, and I think it's a similar sound to that, but with that particular sound, and it happens a few times, it's very harsh as it comes back. So like it's introduced and it goes one way, but then as the movement comes back the other way, it seems to be very harsh. I'm not sure if that's around like 8,000 kilohertz, but it might be. What I would do with that is to just tame that a little bit, round out the sound if you could a little bit. I don't want to say add some more reverb to it, but if there's any way you can kind of dampen or even just tame those frequencies with that sweep or that movement, that would really help, because it's pretty jarring in comparison to also the volume level of it as well too. So I would just try to turn it, even if you don't turn it down, just try to round out that sound a little bit, smooth it out a little bit more. Really just had another comment about your last drop, around like 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Really enjoyed what you did stylistically with it as well too. It kind of tied everything together. I'm still fairly new to mid-tempo. Like when Cyberpunk 2077 came out, I was listening to a lot more mid-tempo than I am now, and my standard is, could I hear this song while I was playing the game? And the answer is yeah, I could hear that. I thought that this track needed a little bit more movement, but I was actually wrong. By the end of the song, I thought to myself there was enough movement provided by the different elements that you had going on that it didn't need something like, more percussive elements like shakers or hi-hats other than what was already there to keep things going. So otherwise, that's it. I would just say to focus on the mix a little bit more, in the sense of just really paying attention to that one resonant sweep or that airy groan, if you want to call it that. But otherwise, I'm impressed. Really like that. Alright, now we have SilverrTigerr. You got a track that you're feeling out, the intro needs work. Any advice on things to try or add? Well, let's hope that there aren't any ads. And let's take a look at what Cursive made here.
Excuse me, do you know where I could find some marijuana? find some marijuana.
Alright, let's get into this. So, I didn't actually write that this was the dubstep track. So, what you have so far in terms of your drop idea, which would be your core idea for your song, is pretty good. The only real issues that I'm hearing with this song is that you have two vocal samples that are just not in tuned, and that could be because of the amount of chorus that's on it, or whatever type of detuning is on it. But you have for your, your whoa, you have that, and it has a lot of chorus on it, and it's causing it to be out of tune with the rest of the song. So possibly what you could try is to repitch it, that sample, and even equalize out a lot of the frequencies in there so it sits better in the mix, and you can kind of hide some of those imperfections. But if you don't do that, then you're going to find the main issue that you're running into with your drop is that other sample. It's like a male rapping or singing. I don't know if it's exactly rapping, but I can't really make it out. Part of that is that there's too many frequencies going on that are muddling up that area, that low mids area. So you have that going on, but you also have a lot of chorus or detuning on that as well. So it also sounds out of touch, or out of pitch. I think this is a minute 25 I have written down. Let's see. Like, that vocal, that whoa, and even the end, like the main vocal in your drop, it should be in line with that little lead melody that you have there. Not in terms of the rhythm, but just it should be in the same scale. And if you can't find a way to efficiently and quickly adjust the pitch of your vocal samples to be in the same key that you want to work with, then it's possible that you might have to then just pitch shift your own song if you really want the vocals to fit in there. Otherwise, if you don't want the vocals to be in there, it's not like it's the whole, like, you have so many vocal samples in there that you don't have one defining vocal for the song, so it won't completely destroy the track if you take out maybe that particular whoa sample. In terms of what's missing in my opinion from this track is that that real lead. You brought in the lead towards the end, the second half of the track, but you didn't actually incorporate it in any of your drops. So I think to create a not just a cleaner mix, but to also carry the ideas that you have in your song forward, I think you need to not just reintroduce your lead melody, but you also need to have it more present in your song somewhere. So whether or not, like you did with the first one, where the second drop, where you put your lead melody during your break section, your second build section, you could do the same thing in the intro. You might tease it again in your drop, or you might actually have it in your drop instead of one of your vocal samples. You might have it playing instead of that. So there are different things you can do with that. If I was you and I was trying to finish out this song, that's something I would do. I would create a variation of this second drop, and I might just do something as simple as adding the lead in there and creating the melody that fits for that second drop. I could add some other slight instrumentation, so maybe I might find another bass preset that I might use and incorporate into that drop as well. But there doesn't need to be too many things that are different. I think your ending, your outro is fine. You know, it satisfies the job of actually just cleanly ending the song. But I think that you're missing probably another like 15 to 30 seconds of your song. And I think you're going to find that by just creating that second drop that has that lead melody in there. And then, you know, you make that addition and you're good, or you might decide to do just an extended outro. That extended outro could even be your B section for your second drop, and that might be something where you're playing around with the melody. That's something that I would really be looking for, but otherwise, and at a minute 25 seconds, I have written down that the lead played an accidental note, so I didn't hear it that time, but if you just go through the song again, you might be able to pick that up again. It might just be a delay that happens twice, and I, really heard that. But otherwise, I like the potential of that song that you have there. Now, lastly, we have Only Me by Myself. And you want just some honest words of discouragement. Here we are with Splackered. Let's hear what this is about. Alright. So, I like the sounds that you have here for this. I don't want to say it's future based, but it's that's a lot of the sounds and vibes I'm getting from it. Especially with the drop that you have there and things that you did with your fills. It was very, very reminiscent of some older future-based songs that I've made. And I can even think about some of the production that you did with that as well, too. The one thing that I really like about this song, and it's what you did towards the end with the 4x4 on the floor beat, that really sets you up to build out the second half. I mean, if you wanted to build out a second half with this song, your intro's kind of long, but that's more like your intro verse section, so I'm not too worried about that. Your drop, however, where it starts, I like the fact that you have the false start, the delayed start, but the the drop is too delayed. Like, just not by a large margin, but the drop had reached the point where the delay is just too much. So I would try to just bring that back by maybe even like a quarter of a bar, maybe a half a bar. Am I saying that right? Yeah. Had to think about that for a second. Um, Another thing is, while you're going through your song, especially the drop here, while you create variation in terms of what's going on with your fills, they are, especially because it happens so often back to back to back, it's very repetitive. You have the same rhythms. It's like you have your drop going, and then boom, there's a fill, there's a stab, there's a chord stab in there. It's the same chord stab maybe 2 or 3 times throughout this. I would call this a 32 bar section, not even a 16 bar section. It's 32 bars if I think, even if I just look at the waveform, it's like 32 bars there. So you may want to, like at the end here, you had a nice fill that transitioned you out of it, but I think you need some type of something that defines that this drop part 1 is now moving into drop part 2, because while it's all one drop, yes, it's all very repetitive. And with this being, the main idea of your song, there has to be something that generates a little bit more interest. And that interest was found, like I found interest towards the end when I heard the fill. I was like, oh, that's something different. But perhaps even if you kept your elements the same, maybe the way you're processing them were different. So like, for example, you have that synth stab that comes in. Maybe, for example, you have it pan in left to right one way, right to left another time it plays. You might have it filtering in one way. You might have it filtering out another way. You might have, there's different things you can do like that to maintain interest while not necessarily changing your elements entirely, or even how they come, how the MIDI is played. Sometimes it's just how you introduce and reintroduce it, and that could be all the difference that you make. That then needs to be made. It doesn't need to be anything too drastic. So boom, I gave you words of encouragement as well as words of discouragement. Now, everyone, thank you so much for submitting your songs. You all won't hear me because I don't work here at r/EDM production. I'm no moderator here, but I still thank you for taking the time out to share your music and ask for feedback. It's a very brave thing to do. If you're looking for more feedback, if you're looking for personalized coaching, and if you're looking for an environment where other people are making music and you're all in the same boat, then I highly, highly encourage you to join my free community. That is www.skool.com/WAV. That's school.com/wave. Go there and find yourself in a community of other producers that are just trying to make more music. Some of us are making a song in a week. Some of us are making multiple songs in a week. Some of us are making one song every 10 days. The goal is just to make more music and push it out there. So if you want to be a part of that, I will see you inside the community. Otherwise, take care, and I'll see you in the next episode of the Music Producer Revolution. Bye-bye.